Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. I'm Gus Kattengell. Happy Monday to you in the month of December. Mr. Jim Eichenhofer, NewOrleansPelicans.com. We are in a new month. Hard to believe, sir, already. Where'd November go?
Yeah, where did 2024 go as well? I can't believe we're almost ready to turn the page to a new year.
Well, for the Pelicans, I'm sure they're ready to turn a new month, new week, new something, new leaf, however you want to look at it. As the Pelicans, since we last chatted with you, have yet to win a game. They lost at Memphis on Friday, 120-109 in a good game. Jim, they competed. It's just Ja Morant is Ja Morant, and it was the three-point shot that was the real difference maker there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it seemed like the Pelicans stayed somewhat in the game, but I never felt like they could get enough defensive stops. And the Grizzlies also turned you over a little bit too much, especially in the first half. They were able to get a pretty big cushion and put it away in the second half.
Yeah, 12-9, the difference in three-pointers made, but they shot 41-29. I don't know if that really had much of a difference in it, Jim, but again, the three-point shot kind of reared his ugly head when it came to last night's game against the Knicks. 20-4 made three-point attempts. The three-point shots it's tough to overcome in the league, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, I'm going to get into this here in a second, but it just seems like the Pelicans have a bunch of guys that are vastly underperforming what they've done throughout their career from the three-point arc, so that definitely has hurt a lot.
There was two highlights in particular that kind of told the tale, in case you were watching the Saints game last night or just didn't really get a chance or wondered, how did the Pels barely score 10 points in the first quarter? Well, this is kind of how it went. This is the first quarter.
Now the bounce feed to Tice, drives in, and he's blocked at the rim on an attempted dunk by OG Anunoby. Back the other way, Brunson. Around the corner to Bridges for a left corner three. Good. Bridges yells at our bench. 19-4 Knicks.
And right after that,
steal Josh Hart, 2-on-1. Hart for McBride. Blocked from behind by Javonte Green. Right off the glass. Back the other way, McCollum. Stop, pop, right wing three. Short. Long rebound. Out to Josh Hart like an outlet pass. Alley-oop. No, he's going to throw it to McBride. Sets his feet. Left angle three. Nothing but net. 42-14 New York. 9:15 to go.
Jim, you heard those highlights there. There's a defensive play, right? Tice blocks it. It turns into a three-point ball for the Knicks. You have Javonte Green gets a block. Three-point attempt by C.J. McCollum, no good. They get a three-point bucket. I had never seen anything like this. I'm looking back at the last 7 games, and the Pels have been down 34, 40 points, 17. It just doesn't seem normal.
No, I mean, last night to me was the first quarter. I mean, maybe the whole first half was Murphy's Law. And by that, I don't mean Trey Murphy, but I mean whenever anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I mean, not only did they make some good defensive plays that turned into open threes for the Knicks, but also it seemed like a bunch of shots were halfway in and rolled out. So, I mean, there was just nothing positive. It just seemed like every single break went in the Knicks' favor. But you're right, it is kind of a continuation of they've had so many starts lately where they're down by a margin that you would say, even if you were at full strength, it's going to be tough to impossible to come back from 25, 30 points. But with some of the other guys that are out right now, it's even more hard to imagine that you can rally from down by some of these margins.
Murphy's Law and the snowball effect. Same neighborhood, same person.
I think it might. I don't know if it's the same person, but they might have been neighbors.
I kind of feel like the snowball effect is that like that snowball. I mean, it's not just if one thing can go wrong, one thing goes wrong, and then here comes the snowball.
Right.
Murphy's Law is kind of like, is it more like a trickling or a damming effect? Because I'm trying to look at how do you get to where you're down 34, 41, double digits? Is it a cascade of events, right?
It takes a village to be down by 35, 40 points.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Like a three-point shooting?
You need to play poorly on defense. One of the things that Antonio Daniels talked about a lot during the TV broadcast last night was that there was a lot of miscommunication on defense. There was a lot of breakdowns where two guys would go to one man and therefore somebody's wide open for the Knicks. I mean, that was a problem as well. But, I mean, you have to turn the ball over a lot. I mean, there's especially for that to happen in the first half, to be down by that large of a number. I mean, you really have to do so many different things poorly to be able to. And I mean, sometimes, too, if you do all that stuff against a good team, too, I mean, there might be some opponents where you have a C- effort and you're still in the game. But, I mean, they've played a bunch of teams lately where if you put that kind of performance on the floor, you're going to be in big trouble.
I think you probably have a better memory than this. Andrew Lopez told Graf before the game, and I'm sure he said it on the broadcast. I saw the graphic. I just can't remember it. Pels are up to, 14, 15 different lineups in how many games?
15 in the first 20.
In 21.
I think it's still 15 out of 21 now because they actually somehow did put the same lineup together 2 games in a row.
Correct. The Knicks, 17, 18 straight or something like that, right?
And they only had they've only used 2 different starting lineups the whole season, which is incredible.
So that's what I'm trying to get at, too, because, again, I'm not trying to find something, but I'm also trying to make sense of some of those things.
Sure.
Could it also be, Jim, where we're sitting there, because I'm thinking the last 7 games, down 41 twice, down 34 twice, down 17 twice. Only one time have you not been down double digits. But I feel like you've gotten players back. Could we have maybe overlooked the fact, hey, these guys are coming back. DeJounte's coming back. CJ's coming back. Trey is back. Now we're going to get rolling and going, and maybe we've forgotten the fact that, well, they haven't played in 2 or 3 weeks, and it's just going to take time because there was one play when Messi picked up a second foul. CJ McCollum peeks to the right, and he's verbalizing something defensively, and credit Karl Anthony Towns, who's on the left wing, saw it, took off past him, drove right at Yves Messi, second personal foul, first quarter. But that's what I'm getting at, right? One of those things like that where you're maybe trying to communicate. You haven't played with all these people in a while. Could that be a reason?
I mean, 100%. You have to think, too, that, I mean, we've seen this, unfortunately, in a painful fashion, that it's not just the guy gets back on the court and everything's back to normal. You have to figure out the chemistry. You have to figure out guys that haven't played with each other, that kind of thing. I also think, too, that, I mean, I don't need to tell Pelicans fans the difficulties that come with guys being injured, but to me, one of them, too, is that there's certain things that I feel like they're duplications of guys. They don't have a good balance of defenders and offensive players right now either because, Herb's not back yet. Jose's out. So, I mean, normally the balance that this roster has, and we saw this a lot last year, one of the reasons they won 49 games was because they had a pretty good mix of enough guys that can score on offense and put up enough points, and then the defense, which was brought a lot by some of the guys off the bench. But I mean, now it's like a mishmash of, like, to me, they have enough offense right now, but they probably don't have enough defense. This is one of the reasons why they're ranked towards the bottom of the league in defensive efficiency. So, I mean, it's just when you envision the way a team is going to look and you look at all the different pieces, but you pull certain ones out, now all of a sudden the chemistry, not just from the standpoint of lack of familiarity with each other, but just the skill sets that you need across the board to be successful, some of them are not on the table right now. So, I mean, I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, it just makes it tough when you look at it all the way around. Coming up in a little bit, you'll hear an interview with Andrew Lopez as he's got a chance to sit down with Elfrid Payton over the weekend. And I guess that's one of those things that I kind of want to bring up, too, is like you're having all these players come in, they get a rhythm and a role, and now they're having to maybe adjust in different roles here as well, right?
Sure. I mean, that's part of it as well. So, I mean, one thing I wanted to talk about briefly, too, before we get to the Elfrid Payton interview, I hear people, Pelicans are 4-17 right now, and everything pretty much is going wrong in so many different ways. I hear people say, people that are being negative, which I totally understand the negativity right now. People say, like, well, I expected this. And I go back to, like, no, you did not expect this. I mean, one of the things I looked at was if you go back to 2 seasons ago, right after when they traded for CJ McCollum, they finished that regular season 9-6. So if you start from that point and you go to the beginning of the start of this season, the Pelicans were 100 wins and 79 losses over that entire span. So you're talking about this was a really good team. But to me, there's a bunch of things that have happened that I can't believe, things that you just could not have predicted, things that there's no way that you could expect. And granted, a big chunk of this is injuries and guys being out. So I'm not going to say that every single time, but I mean, you have to factor that into. They were 6th in defense 2 seasons ago, 6th in defense last season. They're 27th in defense this year. Here's a good stat too. They had the 4th best 3-point percentage last season. This season they have the 4th worst. So I mean, it's a total flip. If you look at individual guys as well, Trey Murphy, career 39% 3-point shooter. He's shooting 30%. CJ McCollum, 40% career, 35 this season. DeJounte Murray, 34%. He's shooting 24% this season. So I guess the question that I ask is, I mean, how much of this is the way the season's going to go all year, or how much of this is, and to borrow one of John DeShazer's expressions that I love, where he talks about players always go back to what's on the back of their baseball card or basketball card, I guess it would be in this case. So I just think that across the board, there's so many different things that are happening that are not only things that you wouldn't expect, but they're all negative.
Yeah.
There's hardly anything where you say going into the season, I expected this, and it's going better than I thought it would be. So you add all that stuff together, you throw in the injuries and the chemistry adjustments and stuff like that, and you end up with an 8-game losing streak and 4-17 and extreme disappointment. But I just wonder, like, I just can't imagine. And I've been surprised so many times already in the first 21 games, but
right.
I just can't imagine that all this stuff across the board is going to continue the way it's gone. I mean, we're talking some of the guys I listed. CJ McCollum, like 12 years in the NBA. DeJounte Murray, 8 years in the NBA. Trey Murphy has proven that he's an elite shooter. So you would think that some of this stuff has got to turn, right, Gus?
You would think so. And look, I think at the end of the day, it goes to this, and we'll do this here real quick and then get to the interview. But I think what Willie Green says here is very interesting. He was asked, what does he see right now when he looks out on a court at his basketball team?
We got to find our confidence. That's the biggest thing I saw. Just, falling in love with the competition of basketball. And it really starts with our confidence, our belief when we step on the floor that we have what it takes to go in these games and compete at the highest level and give ourselves a chance to win. Doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but it just starts with our group having more confidence in what they're doing.
I think it's one of those things where I think it's easy to be like, well, how do you not have any confidence? Get out there. I mean, this is what you do. It's what you're paid to do. This is your job and all that. I think we've all been in situations, I call it the rut, right? Mm-hmm. Where, I don't know, relationship, work-wise. It seems like, to your earlier analysis, or I guess analogy of either the snowball effect or Murphy's Law, right? When one thing kind of happens, it just kind of feeds to one another. Even though you're not letting it do, like, sometimes, I don't know, you have a breakup or a bad day at work and you turn on the radio and just so happens that song's exactly what that is, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's like the universe working like that, but you get what I'm getting at, where I feel like that's when he's saying that confidence thing is, you're sitting there, you may have approached the game, you may be ready to go, and then all of a sudden you look up and I'm like, is it really 24-4? And
like, no, that's exactly what it is.
You know what I'm saying?
I think tangibly, with the way the NBA schedule is, where you're playing so many games, but you also have 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours to get ready for the next game, you can not trick yourself, but you can convince yourself, okay, this is a fresh start. We're gonna it's 0-0. Let's go into this game confidently. But then when you're down 25 points in the first half, whatever belief and confidence that you had, it's like somebody came up with a baseball bat and just smashed it into pieces on the ground, and it just goes away. So, I mean, somehow they're going to have to figure out a way to. It's great you can say whatever you want and you can talk about confidence. And I mean, the word that he used was belief too. The belief in the ability for you to win games. But I mean, you can talk about it all you want, but if you're down 30-something, 40-something points, it doesn't really amount to much.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's just crazy. I mean, those shots are hitting the rim. I don't think, Jim, Pelicans players walk out on the court and I'm going to purposely hit the side of the backboard. Mm-hmm. So many of those shots at the rim last night are going in and out, and then when you see a three on the other end, it just hurts you. Here's DeJounte Murray.
Compete. You got to compete. I just said it. You want me to repeat it again? You got to be tough. You can't let guys do whatever they want. You let anybody, this league is the best of the best for a reason, Dudes are professional NBA basketball players for a reason, so you let dudes do whatever they want. They get to the free throw line, they making open shots, shooting open shots, getting to the rim, getting layups. We talk about it. We don't get easy layups. We don't get wide open shots like that, so it comes down to matching energy, but that should be our identity from the tip, just being tough and making teams feel us for the whole game, no matter who you are. If you start, come off the bench.
When DeJounte speaks there, is he talking about a controllable? You know what I mean? Like, I can control that.
I think, to me, there's definitely an element that you have to factor in. The part that he said about we're not getting layups, we're not getting easy baskets. To me, there's definitely an element to that of not having some of your main guys. Like Zion not only gets easy baskets for himself, but he creates a bunch of easy looks for everybody else. You don't have Brandon Ingram right now. When you don't have, your top guys, that is kind of a consequence of that. But I also think too that the shooting part of basketball, we can't figure it out. We're never going to be able to figure it out. Why does Antonio Reeves have 34 points in a game? Why does he get on a roll like that? Why does Dalton Connect make 9 threes in a game and then maybe the next game he has 4 points?
Right.
It's just that's part of basketball.
Right.
But I go back to what I said about the 3-point percentages. I think that all the guys who've struggled so far would shoot better if the team was more complete and they had some of their main guys that draw attention. But I also think that some of that is just fluky, that it's just I can't explain it. If I could, I'd probably be making a lot more. 10 figures,
yes, exactly.
9 figures,
right.
Whatever it is.
That's why sports psychology is such a big
right. But that's just part of it, and I don't have any answers for why they're shooting at the level that they are, other than if they were more whole as a roster. I think it'd be easier to get easy baskets for sure.
No doubt. Well, Jim, you said this season hasn't gone according to plan. There have been some interesting and some nice storylines. The development of Yves Missi, we've talked a lot about that. Elfrid Payton, man, being a guy from Gretna, right across the river, to be able to play for the Pels and contribute this season. It's one of the reasons Andrew Lopez of the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network wanted to chat with him. He caught up with him over the weekend. Here is his conversation.
Andrew Lopez here with Elfrid Payton, Gretna's finest, in the building, as we are here on the road in New York City getting things ready on this road trip. Elfrid, what has this kind of just been like for you, kind of getting back used to the team? And oh, by the way, you have to start and play this amount of minutes as soon as you get here.
It's been a lot. Just trying to get back acclimated to playing in the league and then playing on with this team. I spent a lot of time here at the preseason, so it's not totally new, but still some things to fine tune.
Your first season here was a lot like kind of this season, as in the potential was there and you saw so much, and then there was an injury here, an injury there. You specifically that first time here. How have you seen similarities between the 2 years so far?
Yeah, like you said, just a lot of potential that we haven't necessarily had a chance to see yet because of the injuries. I think this is a close group though, and I think once we get everybody back healthy, it'll be another challenge. Trying to find a rhythm once they get back, but I think they'll put us in a position to make a run.
Do you ever think about how that first year, how things might have gone different when you don't get injured, and then things kind of started to kind of snowball from there?
Yeah, for sure, all the time. I think about it all the time. It's funny, I was talking to Eichenhofer a couple weeks ago, and we just was talking about how, we only felt like Golden State would have been the only team that could possibly beat us there, yeah.
So far, we've seen this kind of progression away from pass first point guards. I think we have two guys here, and you and DeJounte, who like to make the pass first. Obviously, both of you can score when needed, but why do you think that style of play has kind of decreased in the league in recent years?
I think it's because, for one, just the game has turned into more of a three-point shooting thing. They want more three-point shooting, and I think it's just not rewarded. You don't really see, pass first point guards get rewarded as far as like accolades or money. So I think young guys.
That last one's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. You go for the money. You know what I'm saying? I think young guys coming in seeing guys play a certain way, they figure why not play that way, because that's what the game is gearing towards.
It seems like though there's kind of like a small overcorrection of guys who are high assist, low turnover. Like I think of like Trey and Tyus.
Yep.
I think of even TJ McConnell. Like there's a spot for those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas like, and it's not necessarily okay, I got to be a pass first guy, but you don't want a pass first guy who's maybe 8 assists, 6 turnovers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
The low turnover part is kind of maybe like more important than high assist numbers nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think it also goes to like what's value on that team. You know, these guys have found spots that their team values what they do, and they do a good job at their job. Like T.J. McConnell had a great spot in Indiana last year, and really helped those guys, and they run towards the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's about what teams place they value on.
You spent some time up there last year, obviously Mad Ants, and doing that. What were those kind of 2 years like in the G, kind of trying to navigate your way back to this?
It was a journey for sure. I just was. I'm a big person on trying to be present. Wherever my feet was at. So I try not to think about where I should be or what I should be doing. I was there. I was trying to get better every day, trying to win games, and just trying to help those young guys. Like I said, trying to show them, what a pro looks like, what it means to come to work every day, what it takes, and for the most part, try to tell them, what teams are looking for, to help them, along in their career and stuff like that. So, it was fun, man. I had a good time.
What was it about going that route rather than trying to go to Europe or go anywhere? Like, what made you want to do that instead?
So it's like going on January, February, and I'm just like, I'm tired of working out. So I wanna play, I wanna compete, and just kind of asking a few people. Honestly, be great. I be great too. Like, what you think I should do? You're like, yo, you can play in the G League. And I was like, yeah, think so? He's like, yeah, it's not that bad. We was in third. So I'm like, all right. So I wound up doing the G League, and then I played to finish the season out. And I guess I didn't realize how close the G League was, like how much, teams.
Like how much teams use it.
Yeah.
Because I want to say, because when you were a rookie, it probably was a lot different.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, I never watched a G League game, to be honest. I watched maybe one G League game because one of my players was playing, and it was on NBA TV. But I didn't realize, how close it was. And then Indiana, for one, is one of the best. Like, we was in their facility, we was able to use their stuff, have access to the, equipment and facilities and stuff like that. So, going into that next year, I was like, yeah, I might as well just do it because it was so close, and they do a good job, being there on a daily basis. And most teams do. They got to watch. They want to see their two ways. They want to see their assignments. So you're closer than you think. And I just was like, I felt like being in Europe, I just was out the way. I felt like, there's guys that's done it. You seen Dante Exum come back. There's a few other guys that was able to come back. But I just felt like that would have been too far for me.
What were other players telling you around that time? Guys you were seeing in the G, or I know you played pickup with these guys during the summer. Like, what were other people telling you during that time?
I mean, just regular stuff like, you should be in the league. This is, it's kind of crazy. Some people saying I should go overseas because obviously, it felt like I could have made X amount of dollars. And frankly, some people feel like you have more value, or that people respect you. That they take care of you and stuff like that, as opposed to trying to carve out a league that's quote unquote not showing respect to what you do or what you bring to the team. So it was mixed. But at the end of the day, I just went with my guts and decided to do the G League.
And I know you stay in New Orleans during the summer. And how much did playing pickup with those guys you think help kind of start getting the ball rolling toward this season?
Yeah, a lot, man, a lot. It's been a journey. I was doing all kind of stuff. So I was training with certain teams too, and just being in the gym, and that kind of helped me too. Like, just obviously I feel a certain way, but sometimes like in sports, I don't know how other people is until you could do it. It's like, what I'm saying. So playing with them and being able to hold my own and still be able to do some of the things that I was able to do, I was like, all right, I for sure could still play. So it definitely got the ball rolling playing pickup here, and was able to get invited to training camp and kind of go from there.
Did you ever think that the NBA side of this was done? Did you think like, all right, hey man, if I got to be a G League guy for the next 3-4 years and help teach guys, that's what I'm gonna do, and then do the next step, or you always that whole time you're like, I'm gonna be back.
I mean, it's tough. It's too. I mean, it's days. It's days. You have days where you like, all right, whatever. I do the G League one more year, and then if not, then I'll probably go overseas until I'm done playing, and then get into whatever after that. And then some days it's like, I know I'm gonna get back, man. I see guys playing, and I see what I'm doing against quote unquote players that they think that's gonna be good or potential, things like that. And it's like, oh, I know for sure. Yeah. Or you see somebody else get called up, or you see guys playing well that you feel like, you better. You know what I'm saying? You better than, or you have a similar game to them, and they're having success. So you're like, oh, you can really get back. So it just varies. But again, when I get to thinking like that, I just go back to try to be present. You know what I'm saying? And go from there.
As we sit here taping this interview, it is a Saturday afternoon. Saints play tomorrow. What is that like when you're on the road trying to watch? How much are you trying to watch the Saints at games? I know we've been places before. You're trying to you're doing the same thing I'm doing. We're trying to find a spot.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. Sometimes I gotta kind of take myself out of it because I have to prepare. I gotta prepare for my game. You know what I'm saying? Like tomorrow, they're gonna be playing. Probably gonna be trying for me to be taking a nap. You know what I'm saying? So it varies. It varies. If I have a little time, I feel like I could sneak a little bit in, and I for sure be trying to find it. But if I got time, I'll be taking my nap. We playing Rams tomorrow though, so I want that one.
Yeah, definitely.
I always want to beat them. Yeah, I always want to beat them.
They on the list. It's like Falcons, Cowboys, Rams. That's the three. I don't know.
Vikings too.
Oh, yeah, that's bad memories too.
Yeah.
The last one. You're New Orleans through and through.
Yeah, for sure.
You Eric, go to UL, do everything for the city, stuff with EP Elite, everything you've done. What does it mean for you to have another chance to play with New Orleans across the front of your chest?
It means a lot, man. It means a lot. I think it's just funny how it turned out like that. Even going back to when I got drafted, my first game in the league was in New Orleans. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I think it's just crazy how it keeps going back. It means a lot to me though. I'm very proud of where I came from. I feel like it shaped me to who I am today. So anytime I could pay it back, pay it forward, I love that.
It feels destined that you were like, for a guy with a Fleur de Bee logo on his arm. Yeah. It feels like you were destined to play for this franchise.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
The first one didn't go the way it was planned, so maybe come back for a second time, right?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's going good so far, so keep it going.
All right, thanks, EP.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
All right, thanks to Andrew Lopez and Elfrid Payton for giving us a little bit of that time and a cool chat there. And it was also nice to hear, Jim, from Elfrid. Look, he has a Fleur de Lis tattoo already on him. He's bound
Fleur
to
de Bee tattoo.
Fleur de Bee tattoo.
Right.
I have that somewhere in here. I have one of those Florida. There it is, the Fleur de Bee flag. Mm-hmm. It's a great story. It is. When you think of 900 days without playing, and you come on and he had that, 21 assist game. It's incredible. It really is.
It is. And by the way, too, I was joking with Andrew when he was preparing for this podcast interview, which, by the way, it was great. It was one of the best, I think, player interviews that we've had on the show in all the years that we've done it. But I was joking with Andrew that I think I was wondering if he could ask Elfrid, since he has the Fleur de Bee, is he going to get the Bird de Lis on the other one? The current Bird de Lis. So, but yeah, it was great listening to Elfrid. The guy has so much knowledge. I remember I talked to him a lot the first time he was here in the 18-19 season. Elfrid was a starter and a main guy on that team. So, but I love talking about basketball with him. And obviously both of us were 6 or 7 years younger at the time, but he was also, even at that stage of his career, super knowledgeable about the NBA and basketball in general. And you could hear that with him talking to Andrew of all of the different elements of the game that he understands. I also thought the part about the pass first point guard was interesting as well, for him to break down, here's some of the reasons why there aren't as many guys that are distributors. And it is interesting to think about guys like Tyus Jones, who basically signed like a minimum deal, even though he's the all-time NBA leader in assist-to-turnover ratio. I mean, I think we would kill for
It's incredible.
a 7-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio right now, but yet they're not paying guys like that, but they're paying other guys that don't have as much of an effect on winning for a team but score more. They're paying those guys a lot more money. So I thought that was a good point by Elfrid.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what we love, trying to give interviews like that out here so people can enjoy and listen.
Well, it's a Monday. Thankfully, gym is always our Friday. It's time for Mr. Eichenhofer to give his players of the week and a player to watch for this week. What you got, big guy?
Thank you, Mallory. Well, I mean, the Pelicans didn't win any of their games last week, but I thought if there was a bright spot, it was Yves Missi. I mean, he had one of the best weeks of his career so far. He's basically a month and a half into his rookie season. Over the 4 games, he averaged 13.5 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, shot 58% from the field. And I thought, too, he did it against some very good competition. It wasn't like he was playing against, backups or guys that are kind of lower-end centers and big guys. The Pelicans played against Miles Turner, Jakob Poeltl, Jaren Jackson Jr., Karl Anthony Towns. So, I mean, it was a really quality performance from the rookie from Baylor. And I think we just love the fact that we keep seeing new things from him. We saw there was a baseline kind of reverse layup with incredible footwork against Memphis. Just things that are eye-opening. The player to watch for Week 7, I'm going to go with DeJounte Murray. I mean, partly because obviously the Pelicans are playing Atlanta tonight, and this is his first opportunity to go against the Hawks since the trade. He did not play in the November 3rd game that Atlanta won 126-111 because he had broken his hand a few games before that. But not only tonight, DeJounte Murray against Trae Young of the Hawks, but the rest of the week, Phoenix has Devin Booker. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma City has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then on Sunday, Chris Paul for San Antonio. So a bunch of, again, interesting guard matchups and players that the Pelicans are going to have to contend with. But I'm interested to see how DeJounte plays because he's definitely still trying to get into a rhythm. I mentioned his shooting earlier in the show is way down, but I think some of that just if over the course of his career, he always ends up kind of in the mid-30s, 3-point percentage-wise. He's at 24 right now. So I think there's just a lot of things that we're still waiting to see from him as he kind of gets back to the player that he's been throughout his career.
Yeah. See what takes place here, Jim. We got a couple of games this week. Obviously, tonight's the team taking on the Atlanta Hawks, another team that with Trae Young's been having a nice season there. And then, man, it's kind of a busy week. Tuesday, Wednesday, no game. Thursday, you got a game. Back-to-back, Saturday, Sunday, and that's going to be a home and road game, I guess, to set up the week for us.
Yeah, I mean, once again, the Hawks are 10-11. They actually have the worst record of the 4 teams that the Pelicans are playing against. So this is not, by no means is this a break in the schedule. This is another stretch where they're playing against teams that are really good. Oklahoma City is at the top of the West. Phoenix has been better since Kevin Durant came back. The Spurs, I think, are impressive by being over 500, so it's going to be difficult. And by the way, this is Week 7 that we're in right now in the NBA schedule. Week 8, we still don't know when the games are for the Pelicans. There's going to be 2 games added to their schedule, and I think by the time that we record on Wednesday, the next show, we will probably know those, so we'll be able to kind of go through which are the 2 games that have been added. By the end of Tuesday night, the NBA will know which 8 teams have made it to the Cup quarterfinals and which 22 teams are not. They're going to take the 22 teams, with obviously the Pelicans being one of those 22, and they're going to match them up over 2 games apiece for all 22 of those squads.
Right.
So we'll be able to go from there. And by the way, just kind of a quick NBA Cup update focusing on the West. Tuesday night's the end of the group stage. The 2 teams from the West that have gotten in already are Houston and Golden State, and we don't have time and we don't need to get into all the different permutations and complications and scenarios, but my predictions, and we'll see.
Here we go.
For the other 2 West teams, we'll see how right I was on Wednesday. I crunched the numbers, went through a bunch of different stuff. Oklahoma City and Dallas are my picks. Those are going to be the 2 teams that join Houston and Golden State as the 4 West teams. So hold me to that on Wednesday, and we can talk about that a little bit more.
We'll talk more about this as we go on, especially as we get into the gap. Those 4 teams are now playing some pretty good basketball, pretty tough teams here as well. Look, Houston won again yesterday. We were talking about that with the conductor in our post-game show. That team, I think, I'm not saying, the whole phrase there for real. Like, you're not where you are right now at this point of the season if you're not a good basketball team.
Right.
So good enough to say that Houston is right now a good basketball team?
For them to be on the verge of taking over first place in the West, they're only half game behind Oklahoma City.
Right.
I mean, that says enough right there.
Right.
I mean, even if it was 10 games into the season, if you're right there for the number 1 spot in the conference, I'm impressed by that. So, yeah, I mean, we're basically a quarter of the way through the season, and Oklahoma City's 15-5, Houston's 15-6. So they're right there. I mean, they could be in first place in the West sometime this week. So that is a really big statement based on they went 41-41 last year, and I thought people thought they were going to make a jump, but man, I don't think even the most optimistic over the top Rockets fan was like, yeah, we'll be in contention for the 1 seed.
No doubt. As we close up, 3 teams currently, not we got a lot of season to go, but right now as we start the month of December, Jim, 3 teams that were not in the playoffs last year in the playoffs right now, right? I mean, the Spurs are in the 10th spot. Memphis and Houston, I understand no job, but still, they were not in the playoffs last year. 3 teams that were in the playoffs last year, currently out of the 10th spot looking in as we start the month of December, Minnesota, Sacramento, and New Orleans. So you never know how the seasons can go. I know there's injuries. I know there's different reasons. I'm just saying, as we start the month of December, we'll see where we are in January. But there's 3 teams, that we're not in that are in right now. And I know we have a lot of basketball to play, but that's just kind of how the season is as we start.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not really I'm surprised maybe by which teams it is, but I'm not surprised that there's been some jumbling of the competition just because the West is so good. I mean, you can't drop – the Pelicans have obviously dropped off a lot, but you can't drop off even a little bit and not expect to fall a ways in the standings, which I think is definitely what's happening so far with Minnesota and Sacramento.
No doubt. That is Jim Eichenhofer. Give a follow. You get all of his preview stuff and post-game stuff for the game against the Hawks tonight on Pelicans.com. And again, on Wednesday, you will hear us here on the Pelicans Podcast. Thank you so much, Jim, as always.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.